Today we are going to learn the story The Monkey's Paw by W. Jacobs. The story takes place in Laburnum Villa. Mr. White and Herbert White, father and son, they are playing a game of chess, and Mrs. Herbert White is sitting beside knitting sweater. Mr. White is losing the game of chess and he is very angry at this point of time, and he says, "I don't think my friend can come in this weather. Hark at the wind." So he's very angry at the wind, but it is not that. He's actually expecting somebody, and at the same time he's angry. And Herbert White, his son, he says that father is losing. That's why he seems to be angry. And finally, he says, "Dad, checkmate." Now here, Mrs. White, the wife of Mr. White, says, "Don't worry dear, you'll win the next one." And Mr. White, this is the worst place with only 2 houses around, and very angry with the surroundings. Then suddenly they heard footsteps and somebody comes. So Mr. White's friend, Sergeant Major Morris, comes, and Mr. White greets him. "Hello Morris, my friend." And Morris greets his friend, "Hey White." And then Mr. White tells his wife, Mrs. White, that, "Do you know dear, Morris and I are meeting after 21 years. Then the two friends sat beside the fireside for some drinks. At the 3rd glass, Sergeant Major Morris began his tale of several experiences that he had in several countries. So Sergeant Major Morris says, "I have seen wars, plagues, and I've met strange people, especially in India." At this, Mr. White says, "I should like to see those old temples and fakirs and jugglers in India." Mr. Morris continues to speak. "Better where you are. That means better if you don't visit India." Mr. White is a little confused, and he said that, "You mentioned about a monkey's paw or something. What's that?" And Sergeant Morris says, "Well, that's a little magical." And the entire White family is now listening to the tale of Sergeant Morris. Morris said that the monkey's paw had a spell by an old fakir. He wanted to show that those who interfered with fate did so to their sorrow. The paw granted 3 wishes. So the White family had become very curious to know more about the monkey's paw, and they wanted to keep it. And then suddenly, Morris took the paw from Mr. White and threw it into the fire. Mr. White was surprised and shocked. And Mr. White told Major Morris that, "If you do not want to keep the monkey's paw, at least give it to me. Why are you throwing it into the fire? If you don't want it, and if you don't want to keep it, at least let me have it." And Major Morris said, "You are making a big mistake, White. The paw can only bring destruction and nothing else." And Mr. White, who was not taking it seriously, said, "No problem. I would still like to have it and use it very wisely. Mr. White, who was very eager to use the monkey's paw, said, "But how to use the monkey's paw?" Surgeon Morris replied that hold it up in your right hand and wish aloud. But I am warning you again. And Mrs. White was feeling very funny about the entire thing, and she said, "Haha, sounds like Arabian Nights." And Mr. White said, and he laughed too, "Haha." And Mr. White was about to wish when Morris stopped him and said that he must wish something very sensible. He then left. And he said, "Goodbye, my friend White, but remember my warning." And Mr. White, who was very happy, said that, I will, don't worry my friend. So goodbye my friend, and goodbye Morris, we'll meet again. After Surgeon Major Morris leaves, the White family sit together, and now they decide to ask for a wish for themselves, because now they have the monkey's paw. And Mr. White is confused. So Herbert, his son, suggests him that, "Dad, take out the monkey's paw and wish for something. And we are going to be rich." And Mr. White is confused and said, "But what should I wish for?" So the next part is to be continued. Keep watching. Thank you.